Good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Chair, for the record, before we formally start the meeting, please allow me to read the following statement in reference to the Securities and Exchange Commission, hereafter the SEC, and the revised corporation guidelines, hereafter the revised corporation code, basis for the virtual meeting. In consideration of health and safety concerns of everyone involved, IDC adopted measures to afford stockholders the opportunity to attend, participate, and vote in this meeting as effectively as a physical distancing by holding this year's annual stockholders meeting via remote communication or in absentia, pursuant to Section 49 of the Revised Corporation Code and SEC Memorandum Circular 6-2020. Section 49 of the Revised Corporation Code authorizes shareholders who cannot attend or vote at the shareholders' meetings to participate and vote through remote communication. Further, the SEC has issued Memorandum Circular Number 6, Series of 2020, on March 12, 2020, providing for guidelines on the attendance and participation of directors, trustees, stockholders, members, and other members of corporations in regular and special meetings through remote or other electronic means of communication. Section 10 of SEC Memo Number 6, Series of 2020, provides that when so indicated in the bylaws or by majority vote of the Board of Directors, stockholders or members who cannot physically attend at stockholders or members' meetings may participate in such meetings through remote communication or other alternative modes of communication. So prior to starting the meeting, we will have the national anthem and the opening prayer.
Bayang magiliw, tewas ng silanganan, alam ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y umay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupit, di ka masisingil, sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mo baka, ay ilang ang tula at awit sa paglayang tinawaan. Ang isang ng watawat mo'y nagumpay na nag-iitim, ang bituin ng araw niya kailan mapagay magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng maraming pagsita, buhay langit sa likod. Aming ligaya na pagmay mamagin, at namatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Dear Father, we offer everything and thank you for everyone gathered here today to walk with you. May we ask you for your blessing and guidance so that the activities set for this undertaking be successful. We ask you to open our eyes to see the wonderful things from this activity. We ask that you to open our ears so that we may retain the invaluable knowledge. Open our minds for us to think wisely. Put us with understanding, cooperation and peace in fulfilling our responsibilities. Open our hearts so that we may receive your everlasting love. And open our spirits so that we may know that you are with us all throughout the day. We ask all this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Attorney John, for the statement about this virtual meeting. On behalf of the Board of Directors of ITALPINAS Development Corporation, I would like to welcome the fellow shareholders. And I would like to take a moment to introduce the nominees for the election of the Board of Directors. Romolo Nati, Jose Leviste III, Shannon C., Dionisio Tejero, Christine Base, Giuseppe Garofalo, Emeraldo Magnaye, Rafael Dominguez, Jose Araulo. Also present in the meeting as our stock and transfer agent BDO Unibank Trust and Investment Group and our independent auditors Rocas Cruz Tagel and Co. I hereby call this annual meeting of shareholders to order and now proceed according to our agenda. May I request Attorney Jose Di Leviste, the third president of IDC, to preside as a chairman of this meeting.
Thank you, Architect Nati. Ladies and gentlemen, this annual meeting of the stockholders of ITALPINAS Development Corporation is now called to order. Mr. Secretary, were notices duly issued and do we have a quorum?
Mr. Chair, notices of this meeting, together with the agenda and the information statement of the corporation, were sent beginning October 25, 2022, to all stockholders of record as of October 14, 2022, by personal delivery and by courier with postage prepaid. Based on the record of attendance, the stockholders attending this meeting, in person and by proxy, represent 400,954,576 common shares. These constitute 63.69% of the total outstanding stock of the corporation as of record date of October 14, 2022. We therefore have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. May I request the corporate secretary to discuss the rules and voting procedures followed for this meeting?
Only stockholders who have registered online may participate in this annual stockholders meeting via remote communication or exercise their right to vote in absentia or by proxy. Our procedures for registration, voting, and participation in our annual stockholders meeting are contained in the preliminary information statement and have been implemented as follows. First, stockholders signified their intention to participate via remote communication by submitting requirements by mailing it to the office of the corporate secretary or via email at corporatesecretary@italpinas.com no later than November 15th, 2022. Second, registered shareholders were given the opportunity to send their questions and comments prior to the meeting. Questions and comments received will be taken up in this meeting. However, should there be questions received but not addressed during the open forum due to time constraints, it shall be addressed separately by the company to the stockholders' email addresses. Third, each of the proposed resolutions will be shown during the live streaming as the same is taken up during the meeting. Fourth, stockholders who registered through the online web address to participate in the meeting by remote communication will be included in determining quorum, together with the stockholders who voted in absentia and by proxy. Fifth, voting shall only be allowed for stockholders registered in the voting in absentia and shareholder system or through the chairman of the meeting as proxy. Sixth, shareholders voting in absentia who have previously registered through the online web address casted their votes either by proxy or in absentia by sending the documentary requirements with transmittal letter to the office of the corporate secretary at the 8th floor, DPC Place, 2322 Chino Roses Avenue, Makati City, or scanned copies of the required documents emailed to corporatesecretary@italpinas.com no later than November 15, 2022 at 12 midnight. 7. All the items in the agenda for the approval by the stockholders will need the affirmative vote of stockholders representing at least a majority of the issued and outstanding voting stock present at the meeting. 8th, election of directors will be by plurality of votes, and every stockholder will be entitled to accumulate his or her votes. 9th, the Committee of Inspectors of Proxies and Ballots will tabulate all votes received, and an independent third party will validate these results. The corporate secretary shall report the results of voting during the meeting. 10th and last, the meeting proceedings shall be recorded in audio and video format.
Thank you for that, Mr. Corporate Secretary. We'll proceed to the first business item on the agenda, which is the approval of the minutes of the annual stockholders meeting held on January 18, 2022. Copies of the minutes were posted on the company's website. Mr. Corporate Secretary, can you present the minutes of the previous meeting and the voting results on the approval thereof?
Mr. Chairman, a copy of the minutes of the previous meeting of the January 18, 2022 annual meeting has been made available through the company's website. We would like to make it of record that stockholders owning 400,954,576 shares, or 100% of the shares represented in the meeting, voted to approve the minutes of the meeting. 0 shares voted against it and 0 abstained. The resolution passes as follows. Resolved, the minutes of the annual shareholders meeting held on 18 January 2022 are hereby approved.
This is noted, and accordingly, the motion is hereby carried, and the January 18, 2022 minutes of the annual stockholders meeting are approved. At this point, let me now request our CEO to present the management report and results of operations of the company for the year 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sharing the screen. Okay, so IDC, ITALPINAS Development Corporation, incorporated in 2009. Just an overview about the company and our latest performance. Allow me to share a short video about the company. Okay, so let me start. This is a table of contents of the items I'm going to present today. Just an overview about the unique proposition of the company. We are totally committed to sustainability, designing and developing green buildings in emerging cities for the rising middle class in the country. And we have been able to secure several awards for our innovation in real estate. This is the organizational chart. We have been growing consistently in terms of employees, and we are keeping our organizational chart lean and very efficient. This is the conglomerate structure of IDC. We have been incorporating 2 new companies, IDC Homes, that will gather the B and C market of green projects, and IDC Prime, which will instead focus on the A market. We also own 25% of renewable energy company, Constellation Energy Corporation, and we also incorporated a new company for asset management in order to give additional services to our unit owners. This is an overview about the ownership structure. No need to comment about it. And this is our key management. We have our COO, Mr. Engineer Garofalo, Harold Dakumus, that has been with us for several years, together with Marianne, Vice President for Finance. Clara and Gladys are they're based in Cagayan de Oro, and they are sales head and head of operations. The projects that we have been developed and we are developing currently are mainly 4. Even if several projects have several phases. Our first project was Primavera Residences in Uptown Cagayan de Oro, a flagship project. And due to the success of this project in Cagayan, we started to develop a new project, a bigger scale, called Primavera City. Miramonte is instead the first project that we are developing in the island of Luzon, 45 minutes from Makati by car, and Verona is the new project in the economic development that is going to be developed. Actually, it's already under development. We are preparing the site waiting for the license to sell to be issued, hopefully within the year. And this is the first project developed by our subsidiary, totally owned by IDC, which is IDC Homes. Just an overview about the projects. Primavera Residences, Best Mixed-Use Building at Asia Pacific Property Award in 2014. Located in Cagayan de Oro, a very progressive city, one of the fastest growing cities in the Philippines, which is considered the hub to Mindanao and the gate from Mindanao to the Visayas and Luzon. These are some slides, actual photos of the project. And these are some features of the project together with the buyer's profile, as which is, by the way, consistent to all our projects. We have 40% of businessmen, so we are unlocking investment from business people in the provinces, in emerging cities, and we have also a big number of OFWs. The number of foreigners is also increasing as the employees. Due to the success of Primavera Residences, we started to develop Primavera City, a much bigger project, also awarded in Singapore at the Asia Pacific Property Award as the best mixed-use building in 2017 in the Philippines. This is the project when it's going to be completed. We are talking about more than 1,200 units. It's going to be developed in 4 phases. We already developed phase 1, and we are turning over the project. Phase 2 is under construction, catching up the delay brought by the pandemic, and phase 3 is under permitting stage, and phase 4 as well is under permitting stage. These are the features, the design concept, which implemented the typical green design policy strategy of ITALPINAS Development Corporation. And also, as you can notice, the buyer's profile is similar to the Primavera Residences. Allow me to show you a short video about the complete sitting. And this is phase 2 under construction. The project, the first project we are developing in the island of Luzon is called Miramonte, also awarded at the Southeast Asia Property Award in 2019 as the best mixed-use buildings in the Philippines for that year. We are located in Santo Tomas, Batangas, a place surrounded by industrial parks with more than 100,000 employees. These are some renderings about the project and the usual design concept and green features. And as you can also notice, even in this case, the buyer profile is quite consistent with our target market. And this is a photo of the project as it was just a couple of weeks ago. Verona is the latest project of ITALPINAS Development Corporation, which is going to be developed by our subsidiary IDC Homes. We are still located in Cagayan de Oro, just across the other 2 projects that we have in Uptown Cagayan. We are developing an area of 1.1 hectares. We are going to develop around around 800 units, economic. So we are developing walk-up buildings, buildings that are 4 stories high, and they are dedicated to the economic market in Cagayan de Oro. Even if being economic and so affordable in terms of price. We still deliver our unique design, Italian modern features, and green features in terms of reducing and minimizing the impact on the environment. That's the site. We are doing the clearing of the project, so the project site, so that we can start soon the construction. Okay, just let me discuss the financial performance. So we have been constantly, sorry, this is the financial statement. So the net profit for the year 2021 was 131.80. So we have been able to change the trend that unfortunately was brought by the pandemic with the reduction of the net income. So we are back on track in increasing our profitability. The revenue went down again due to several cancellations the COVID pandemic brought, but we have been able to instead optimizing our gross profit margin. How we do that? Mainly effectively managing our construction and so maintaining cost very competitive, but without compromising the quality, which is again another high standard of ITALPINAS Development Corporation. And even if we had cancellation, we had several sales. Outside sales, we didn't slow down during the pandemic, actually increase. And we also have been able to increase the selling price. As the net income I've been showing, even during the pandemic, we have been able to increase our net income. In relation to the balance sheet, this has been constantly increasing, total liability and equity, showing that the company is healthy and we are keep growing as committed. And our total asset increase in 2021 compared to 2020 to almost 3 billion, actually 2.735 billion. Total equity as well increased thanks to the accumulated earnings, and we have been able, that's also we are very proud of this, not to increase too much our leverage. We are quite below the requirement covenant ratio of the bank, which is 3:1. We are 1.77:1. Return on asset, we have been able to maintain quite consistent to the 2020. This is the last slides, and I'll give back the stage to Mr. Jose Di Leviste. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman Nati, for the comprehensive report. The 2021 audited consolidated financial statements of the company were appended to the definitive information statement sent to all stockholders of record. Mr. Corporate Secretary, could you present the proposed resolution to approve the 2021 AFS and the voting results thereof?
Mr. Chairman, the proposed resolution is flashed on the screen. Resolved that the audited consolidated financial statements of the company and its subsidiaries as of and for the 12-month period ended December 31, 2021, as audited by the company's independent auditors, Rojas Cruz Tagle & Co., are hereby approved. We would like to make it of record that stockholders owning 400,954,576 shares, or 100% of shares represented in the meeting, voted to approve the resolution flashed on screen. 0 shares voted against it and 0 abstained.
This is noted. Accordingly, the motion is hereby carried and the 2021 AFS is hereby approved. The next item on the agenda is the approval and ratification of all acts of the Board of Directors and Management during the preceding year. May I request the Secretary to explain this agenda item, please?
This matter being proposed for approval and ratification of the shareholders refers to the acts and resolutions of the Board of Directors and Management since the meeting of the stockholders on January 18, 2022, up to the date of this meeting. These were summarized in the definitive information statement provided to the shareholders and also disclosed and posted at the company's website. The acts of the Board of Directors and its committees include approvals of contracts and agreements, investments and capital expenditures, treasury and other matters that have been subject of the corporate disclosures to the Philippine Stock Exchange and the Securities and Exchange Commission. The acts of management refer to those made to implement resolutions of the board and its committees and undertaken in the general conduct of business and affairs of the company.
Mr. Corporate Secretary, could you present the proposed resolution to approve the acts of the board, its committees, and of management, and please provide the voting results?
Mr. Chairman, the proposed resolution is flashed on the screen. Resolved that all acts of the Board of Directors and Management from the date of the last Annual Stockholders Meeting held on January 18, 2022 to date are hereby approved and ratified. We would like to make it of record that stockholders owning 400,954,576 shares, or 100% of the shares represented in the meeting, voted to approve this resolution. 0 shares voted against it and 0 abstained.
This is noted. Accordingly, the motion is hereby carried, and the acts of the board, its committees, and of management are hereby ratified and approved. The next item is election of directors. May I request Mr. Rafael Dominguez, Chairman of the Nomination and Corporate Governance Committee, to report on the nominees for election to the company's board of directors.
In accordance with the corporation's bylaws, the nominations committee has pre-screened and shortlisted all candidates nominated to the board of directors. The following persons have been nominated for election to the board of directors for the ensuing year, and each one of us has accepted the nomination, namely Romulo Nati, Jose D. Leviste III, Shenan C., Dionisio Tejero, Christine P. Base, Mr. Giuseppe Garofalo, and as independent directors, Rafael A. Dominguez, independent director, Jose G. Araulo, independent director, Emeraldo C. Magnaye, independent director. All nominees are incumbent members of the board. All nominees have been determined by the committee to possess all the qualifications and none of the disqualifications provided under the company's bylaws, Manual of Corporate Governance, and SEC rules, and are eligible for re-election to the board of directors.
Thank you, Director Dominguez. Mr. Corporate Secretary, can you present the proposed resolution to elect the directors and please provide the voting results thereof?
Mr. Chairman, the proposed resolution is flashed on the screen. Resolved that the following individuals be hereby elected as members of the company's board of directors to serve for a term of 1 year from November 16, 2022 until their successors have been duly elected and qualified. We are now flashing on screen the tally of the votes casted in favor of the nominees. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Accordingly, the motion is hereby carried, and the following are hereby elected as directors for the year 2022 to 2023. Romulo Nati, Jose Leviste, Shenan C., Dionisio Tejero, Christine Base, Giuseppe Garofalo, and as independent directors, Rafael Dominguez, Jose Raulio, Esmeraldo Magnaye. Congratulations to the above. We'll move on to the next item, which is the appointment of an external auditor. May I request Mr. Jose G. Araulio, Chairperson of the company's Audit and Risk Oversight Committee, to report on its evaluation and recommendation, please. If we have a technical problem with the connection, would it be possible, Mr. Corporate Secretary, for you to read a copy of his statement if you have it?
Yes, Mr. Chair. After having considered the qualifications, performance, independence, and the quality and candor of communication with the company of the incumbent external auditors, Rojas, Cruz, Tagle & Co., the Audit and Risk Oversight Committee, on behalf of the board, hereby recommended the reappointment of Rojas, Cruz Tagle and Co. as the company's independent auditors for financial year 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Corporate Secretary. We take note that the statement came from Mr. Araulio and should have been attributed to him. We can make that available in writing in case it's required by request. But with that, we'll take that advice on from the corporate secretary. So we can move on now. And could you please present the proposed resolution to appoint the external auditor and please provide the voting results thereof.
Mr. Chairman, the proposed resolution is flashed on the screen. Resolved that the appointment of Rojas Cruz Tagle and Co. as the corporation's external auditors for 2022 is hereby approved. We would like to make it of record that stockholders owning 400,954,576 shares, or 100% of shares represented in the meeting, voted to approve this resolution. 0 shares voted against it and 0 abstained.
This is noted. Accordingly, the motion is hereby carried and Rojas Cruz Tagle and Co. is hereby appointed for the year 2022. The next item on the agenda is the delegation of authority to the board for private placement transactions. As you have already heard from the report from our CEO, we are eyeing certain potential sites for future projects. Preparatory to approaching the owners of these properties, we have asked the board for authority to offer to the owners an investment opportunity through private placement rather than offering to buy the properties outright. The investment opportunity will consist of a property for share swap or property plus cash for share swap or some other combination. The shares would come from the corporation's unissued shares. And in this manner, the corporation will be able to acquire and develop the properties with less cash out for the acquisition. And this will give the corporation more flexibility in capturing other opportunities. At the meeting of the board on September 28, 2022, the board approved the issuance of shares for the acquisition of properties for future developments, but the board set the limit that such issuance shall not exceed 20% of the unissued shares of the corporation. At the same time, the board resolved to seek shareholder approval for the delegation of power to the board to perform the following tasks. First, to determine the subscribers for the private placement shares. Second, to determine the number of private placement shares to be issued, provided that such shall not exceed the 20% of the corporation's unissued shares. Third, to determine the subscription price at which the private placement share shall be issued. Fourth, to determine the manner and form of payment. And fifth, other financial terms. Mr. Corporate Secretary, could you please present the proposed resolution to authorize the board for private placement transactions?
Mr. Chairman, the proposed resolution is flashed on the screen. Resolved that the board approval of additional issuance of shares up to 20% of the corporation's unissued shares for the acquisition of properties for future projects through private placements of property for share, cash for share, or a combination of both is hereby ratified. Resolved finally that the board is hereby authorized to perform the following acts in accordance and further to the resolution above. First, to determine the subscribers for the private placement shares. Second, to determine the number of private placement shares to be issued, provided that such shares shall not exceed 20% of the corporation's unissued shares. Third, to determine the subscription price at which the private placement share shall be issued. And fourth, to determine the manner and form of payment and other financial shares. While majority of the shares represented in the meeting voted to approve the resolution, the individual items comprising the resolution have varying results. You may refer to the slide shown on your screen.
Thank you, and we take note of the results on the screen. Those results shown are noted. Accordingly, the motion is hereby carried, and the board has been authorized to determine the financial terms of the private placement transactions aimed at acquisition of properties for future development. The last item on the agenda is other matters. Is there any other matter which has been raised in the open forum and may be properly taken up by the stockholders at this meeting?
We have a few questions, Mr. Chairman. The questions basically touch on three issues: the private placement, the appropriation of retained earnings, and the share prices. We will be reading the questions that more or less encompass the other questions relating to a specific issue or touching on several issues. Allow me to read a question touching on the first and third issues. The question is, will not the private placement cause a decrease in the share price?
It's possible that there will be a decrease in the short term to the share price, but again, it's management's opinion that to take action such as the accommodation of a private placement would enable the company to grow quite markedly in the middle and longer term. So the short answer is yes. A short term decrease is possible and can be tolerated, but mainly because, as I said, our sights are really set on the longer term, and we believe that this is one stepping stone to the growth that we're looking forward to delivering to shareholders and stakeholders.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Another question that we received was, why do you need a private placement when instead of declaring dividends, you already appropriated the retained earnings for future developments?
That's correct, except I would qualify that the retained earnings were intended for projects that have already undertaken pre-development works. So while they're not yet complete, they are at that stage where pre-development work has been done. I'm referring in particular to Miramonte Phase 2 and to Verona. So those were two projects for which retained earnings were intended. On the other hand, private placement or the private placement that we're preparing for would really be focused on acquiring projects for the longer term. So it's really more targeted to development of our project pipeline. And again, I'm referring to this middle and longer term strategy that management is very much concerned and enthusiastic about to deliver steady and healthy growth in the medium to longer term. So there is just that qualification, Mr. Corporate Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Then the second to the last question that we received was, what do you intend to do about getting the share prices back to 3 pesos?
Well, that's a good question. I imagine that 3 pesos is an example, as a number. Share price is subject to a lot of things, supply and demand, other things that are happening in the economy and in the world. But as I said, we are always working towards that medium and longer term growth. In the shorter term, in the immediate term, including the work that we're doing in relation to this particular meeting, we've passed resolutions to enable us to make those middle to longer term steps. So things like the earmarking of retained earnings that I mentioned just earlier, and preparations for a potential private placement, which was part of the board meeting today. All of these things are in the shorter term, but again, enabling us to take the steps necessary to ensure strong and healthy growth in the pipeline going forward. And that's what we really, as management, that's what we really look forward to delivering to our stakeholders. So what we do to support the growth of value in the company, well, all of the above. So in the longer term, it fits together. And we look forward to reporting to you again in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The last question that we have is as follows. Are you going to declare dividends for 2022?
Well, again, as I've said before, the board has already decided to appropriate the retained earnings to future projects. So I think that last question is similar in theme. I think it highlights that there is often a choice between shorter term gain and longer term strategy. In this case, as I said, retained earnings have already been appropriated, and that's part of the path that, in management's opinion, is the best one to delivering better growth in the longer term.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's the last question that we have in our management portal. Mr. Chair, unless the shareholders have any other further questions to ask, I believe that all questions have been addressed and answers have already been given, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, if there are no other items, then we can adjourn the proceedings. Okay, I hereby declare the meeting to be adjourned.